Peace and blessings, and welcome to another edition of King Talk Tuesdays. I'm your host, Andy King, the show with real views, real news, and real talk. Here on King Talk Tuesdays, we cover so many topics, including education, health, economics, spirituality, and so much more. I look forward to you joining me each and every week for more inspiring and dynamic conversations. King Talk Tuesday streams live every Tuesday on Facebook and YouTube at 8 p.m. Also, King Talk Tuesdays airs on BronxNet Television every Thursday at 10:30 p.m., as well as Optimal Channel 70, as well as Fios Channel 2136. We stream on a number of streaming services such as Roku TV, Amazon Prime, Millennial TV 24, and Clash TV. I encourage all our viewers and all our new viewers to subscribe to our YouTube channel, not miss any of our previous episodes. Also, please check your local listeners to check King Talk Tuesdays that airs throughout the week. I want to thank everyone who has been tuning in and checking out King Talk Tuesdays for the past couple of years. Because you know what I say, right? People pay attention to people who participate. So tell a friend, tell a neighbor that King Talk Tuesday is now on. They can drop us a comment or a thought on our Facebook chat or our YouTube chat, or just email us at kingtalktuesdays@gmail.com. Again, our email address is kingtalktuesdays@gmail.com. We'll be right back on King Talk Tuesdays after a word from a couple of our friends. Andy King for Thorough Dynamics. The vision of Thorough Dynamics was something that was bred over 25 years ago that allows people to get their physical rehabilitation services back to life. What we've done over the last year is do a total revamping, a total reorganizing. How do we service people? Because service is anything you do to improve the lives of others. If you don't have your body strong, if you don't have health, you have nothing else. Visit our website at thoroughDynamics.com or call us at 866-256-0937.
Good Neighbors Community Outreach Agency provides programs that help community residents improve their lives and support their families. Are you in need of food, clothing, employment, or a home? We also provide immigration services and passport renewal.
Hi, I'm Pastor Glad.
And I'm Lady D.
We're here to serve you.
Need help? Ask us.
You can reach us by calling 718-652-3288 or visit us at gncdcny.org.
Well, a good shout out to our friends at Good Neighbors. I want to thank Pastor Pig, Pastor Glad, and Lady D for all they do to make sure that all our social services are needed here in the Northeast Bronx. And of course, yours truly has some kind words to help out Thorough Dynamics, who was number one in helping us get our lives back to life. Whether you have a back problem, a knee problem, a joint problem, whatever that problem you got, Thorough Dynamics is the answer to get yourself back to life. There's a lot of things that are happening in the world today, but you know what I really want to know? Well, as Marvin Gaye would say, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Well, let's talk about what's going on. We want to let you know that applications for New York City Summer Rising program are now open until May 1st. Summer Rising is free and available to all NYC students in grades kindergarten to 8, pending seat availability. For more information and to apply, please visit nyc.gov/Summer Rising. Again, that's nyc.gov/Summer Rising. Secondly, we want to let you know that Denim Day in the Bronx is coming up. The march is coming up. Yes, it is coming up. Thursday, April 20th. This Thursday, April 20th. Thursday, the 20th, coming up at 161st Street and the Grand Concourse at 3:30 p.m. For anybody who's experienced any type of domestic or any type of violence, we want us to come together, make a stand. Be strong. Let us know that this type of behavior, it will not be tolerated here in the borough of the Bronx and beyond. So please, if you can make it out there for the march and the walk, please join them this Thursday at 3:30 p.m. at 161st Street and the Grand Concourse. Today is one of those days that some people dread. It is the last day you can file your taxes. But if you have to file, a deadline, because you missed your deadline, go ahead, you can file it online. Again, that's one extension, and learn more about the earned income tax credit also. So I just want to remind everyone, if you don't owe, then the deadline is today, and it was April 15th. If you didn't owe, but we'll change around. If you do owe, the deadline was now. If you don't owe, don't lose your mind. For people who don't owe, you've probably already done your taxes. But if you do owe, and you should have gotten it in. If you haven't gotten in, filing for an extension. There are great tax people out there who can give you a helping hand. And at the end of the day, with all that we've experienced, the government is trying to work with its citizens. So let's do all that we can to make sure that we uphold our part of the bargain, to get our taxes in, to get our returns, more importantly, to be able to have the funding to keep our cities across this country stable. So we want to let you know, fourthly, that our New York Attorney General, Letitia James, has announced the first statewide gun buyback event. Participants will get $500 per assault rifle. Wow, $500 per assault rifle, $150 per handgun, and $75 per shotgun. The event is scheduled for Saturday, April 29th at the Family Life Academy on West 170th Street from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Again, if you're out there with a gun that doesn't work or an illegal gun, and I know sometimes people get a little twisted by that because, the law-abiding citizen is trying to do the best. And if they're armed, hopefully they will have a gun that is legal. But we know the person who got the gun, obtained it illegally, who's committing crimes, they'll be the last one to try to turn it in. So again, if you know somebody who has a gun, who's illegal, especially if they're 16, they're teenagers, and in your early 20s, and you don't have a job, and you walk around and someone knows that you have one, you don't want to wait till they shoot a family member before you start talking. Let's keep our streets safe, and let's do it together. Well, talking about keeping our streets safe, talking about the unfairness, talking about the justice, talking about the injustice, talking about the spiritual justice. There's a conversation we're going to have today about how this intertwines with one another. And we're going to talk about social spiritual justice. And what does that actually mean, and how it has an impact on how we are engaging, what our responsibilities are to our neighborhoods and our communities. Having this conversation and joining us are four dynamic spiritual pastors who are working with NYPD, who head up their clergy coalitions that are organized and designed to make sure that the clergy does its part to help and encourage souls to be better, bring them to a spiritual realm that allows them to be following something of discipline. And we're grateful and thankful that the four of them took time off their busy schedule to have this conversation that's so important in this time and essence. So I want to welcome a good man who's been part of King Talk. He's done a lot of work, done a lot of marches, got a lot of great words to share, but a lot of good energy out of the Health and Hospital Corporation with Stand Up to Violence, and doing good work with Guns Down and Lives Up, and just a good man. I want to thank him. He's the president of the 49th Precinct's Clergy Coalition. Welcome, Pastor J. A. Gooden Sr. to King Talk Tuesday. How you doing, good man?
All is well, Andy. Let me just start by saying to you, happy birthday. Happy belated birthday. Oh man, we up there together.
Yes, we are. Well, I thank you for that.
I'm glad to be here tonight. If I could just add something, Andy, if I could just put a shameless plug in, because you mentioned Letitia James. And I just want to say we'll be celebrating our 10th anniversary, the Clergy Council of the 49th Street, this Thursday at Maestro's Catering Hall, 1703 Bronxdale Avenue. And Letitia James, she spoke with her people today. She'll be with us at 6 p.m. on hors d'oeuvre hours from 6 to 7. So get there, get to your good hors d'oeuvres at Maestro's. And we have special, the legendary, as our musical guest this year, Miss Melba Moore. Some of our honorees will be Chief Madry from NYPD, the Honorable Speaker Carl Hastie. We'll also be honoring our Darcel Clark, our Bronx DA, our Bronx Borough President, Vanessa Gibson, and also Pastor David Hernquist, who's retiring he's been my vice president for over 20 years. He'll be retiring from Van Ness Assemblies of God, and also Elder Patricia Uribe, a member of our clergy council. So we invite everybody. Tickets are ticket donation is $100. So you can see me. I'll 917-769-4449. Thank you, Andy. Sorry for that shameless plug, but
well, you did say it was shameless. Don't worry about it. Hey, listen, that's also my daughter's birthday, so I'll be there with her that night. So Give a birthday shout out.
Yes, sir. Looking forward to it.
Oh, goodness. Thank you. Thank you. Our next guest we're going to bring into tonight's show is another clergy coalition president who's doing wonderful work in the 52nd precinct. I want to welcome to the first time to King Talk Tuesday, Pastor A. Manning. Brother Manning, come on up here, Pastor Elder.
Yes, sir. And I thank God for the both of you that's been on this march for so long. And I'm learning as I'm going. And I thank God for Commander Jeremy Shublin of the 52nd precinct that we cover up there in the Heights. And yes, and we just thank God for y'all allowing me to come on and to be a part of this talk, to where we can, as we say, and our motto is, if you see something, say something. And so we can have a better community where we live into and to bring a peace and safety into our communities like it used to be. Mm-hmm. Because the way times are going now, it's been a big change from where we came from to where we are today. And we have to get back to that old landmark and to where we'll be a help to those that wants to bring peace and safety in our communities, and whatever means and ways that we could come together as a whole and to get this done. We're here for it. And I thank God for you allowing me to share that on this evening. Back again, sir.
Pleasure, honor and pleasure. Thank you for those words. And next up, we want to bring into this conversation a great sister who is the vice president of the 44th Precinct Clergy Coalition. Everyone, welcome the first time to King Talk Tuesday. Good Reverend Cora. T. Tate. Come on, Sister Tate. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much. It is such a pleasure to be with everyone this evening. I feel like I am in real good company. And I look forward to our conversation this afternoon. And I'm praying that people are going to be blessed by what we say during our time together this evening.
Thank you. Thank you. I love those words. And our final guest for this evening, no stranger to King Talk Tuesday, no stranger to the 47th Precinct area, no stranger to the Boogie Down Bronx, no stranger to the Sigmas, no stranger to the Brotherhood. I want to welcome my good brother, Pastor Lamont Granby. Come on up here, Pastor Granby. How you feeling, good man? Pastor Granby? Blessings. All right. Well, we'll do sign language tonight, and we'll come back to him. And we'll go from there. So I want to thank everybody. Thank you all again for tuning in tonight, and all our guests who are watching, because when we start talking about social justice, there's so many things that have occurred. We're just going to keep it in the last couple of days, in a couple of months, from what's happening in Tennessee to Kansas City to Alabama, all over what's going on, from shootings, from killings, from Congress members being expelled, just the ugly of the world that, we're trying to manage. And that's fighting for that social justice. But I want to start with this, and then we're going to open up and have everyone have this conversation, because I want to know, do y'all agree, because you're all part of the cloth, and you're all following the laws that are in Scripture and Bible, and teaching and learning and ever growing. When none of us are absolute in the word of the Bible, even though we're continuing to learn it. All our pastors that I know, if any pastor was to tell me they know every word in the Bible, I have to look at them in a certain way, because there is a lot of words and a lot of scriptures that when the Lord reveals it in his time, with one individual on this planet be able to understand from the first word to the last word and understand it all and be able to deliver it all. But as we continue to ever learn and grow, the question I pose to justice, we talk about the spiritual justice. Justice is the unchanging law that brings consequences for actions. Because of the law of justice, we receive blessings when we obey God's commandments. The law of justice also demands penalties to be paid for every sin we commit. What are your thoughts on this statement? I'm going to go with you, Pastor Gooden. Kick us off.
Well, I believe from a biblical standpoint, the Bible said that the wages of sin is death, letting us know that there is a consequence to sin. There's a consequence to injustice, I should say. But the gift of God is eternal life through Jesus Christ, our Lord. So we got to understand, for every choice we make, there is a consequence. Now, for instance, you talked about the incident in Tennessee. I mean, when we look at that, we could see the racial injustice that's still plaguing our streets, that's plaguing our countries. You know, even today, Dr. Martin Luther King, he marched on it, bled and died for us 55 years ago. But the fact of the matter is that these racial injustices are still a part of our everyday living. So it's up to us to recognize the role that we play, is that we can't allow that to stop us. Yes, we've made a whole lot of progress, but at the same time, we still have more to go. And that's why, you know, we got to keep the dream alive. We got to, and it starts with us first. My father always taught me one thing that always stuck with me. 3 places where we learn, and this is what we got to teach our young people. 3 places we learn. It's in the home, the church, and the school. And we've had such a breakdown in the home. And you know me, I've shared this before. I believe that's where the root of the problem begins, is in our home. Where it used to be, and I often say this to the church family, it used to be a time when it took the village to raise the children. Now the children are raising the village, you know, and we've lost that breakdown in the school. There's no more, when the guns are coming into the school, children are not safe even in the school. And then in the church house, we have lost, you know, I'm sure everybody on this line tonight can talk about, since the pandemic, how we have lost members. And then even before that, you know, that we're living in a day now when men are calling wrong, right, wrong. And so I often say this, though, Andy, in spite of everything that we're going through, the Bible is yet being fulfilled. The Bible talks about these times, the last days, perilous times shall come. It's risky time. Brother Granby is going to be coming on hopefully soon. I eulogized a young man that was shot and killed this morning at his church, a 21-year-old young man. We had a prayer rally for a 20-year-old that was shot on yesterday on Fenton Avenue here. And so it lets us know that the Bible is being fulfilled. Yet we, as the people of God, must stand up for justice. Wherever there's an injustice, we must stand up for justice.
Yes. Pastor Tate, would you care to tackle that same question or add to what Pastor Gooden shared?
Yeah, I just want to just add on to what he's saying. He is so right. Oftentimes when we think about God, we think God is love. God is this. God overlooks things, but God is a God of justice. The Bible speaks more about justice than anything else. And so we ask ourselves, what is justice? It is what is right. It has nothing to do with personal opinion or anything like that. It is what is moral, right, and what is just. And God calls the church to be just. You know, in the Old Testament, in Micah, it said, you know, what do the people ask? You know, what do you require? He said that you would be a people of justice, that you pursue justice. Chaim Ra, in his book, The Prophetic Lament, one of the things that he says is that the church has forgotten how to lament. You know, how do we lament about all the things that are going on, all the things that are unjust? And I think once we get back to that, we will recognize that God is a God of justice. And as God's people, we are to pursue justice. And in terms of working with the precinct, I think that it takes all of us working together to bring about a beloved community.
I see that we have, I think Granby is back in town. How you doing, young man? Are you with us now? Can you hear us?
I'm with you. Can you hear me? God bless you.
Yes, you sound very good. You've been listening to the conversation. We wanted to bring you in. You heard what Pastor Gooden kicked us off with, and what I read to so many of what we just read to start the show up. We care to get your thoughts on spiritual justice. What does that mean?
Well, first of all, to all my brothers and sisters in faith in the community, I just want to say good evening to everyone. And with that being said, when you say justice, justice is supposed to be blind by the courthouse jurisdiction, but yet in the spiritual justice right now, we're dealing with brokenness, and we're dealing with so many people who are outside of a faith-based collection. This last couple of years of the COVID pandemic, as Pastor Gooden has already illuminated, we have lost so many parishioners. I mean, good people of faith who have closed their eyes and gone on to be glory. So the church right now is in a point where how reach those who don't even want to be reached. That's the thing. You have a new collection of people who don't even want to be reached. They just want to live their life. And we have to try to get them back to some sense of reason of how to interact with each other. Because we have a jurisdiction now, especially of the young men, all of us who are of a certain age, when something happened in the street, we say, just give me a fair one. And we might, if we went to throw blows at each other, we throw blows. And then afterwards, those people sometimes became your friends or you had a level of respect. But the jurisdiction now of the mindset of these younger people is just shoot, stab, keep moving. And that's where we have no justice of just how to deal with things out in the street. And then also there's no justice in the household. Parents don't even run the house anymore. The children are telling the parents and the grandparents what's going to happen. So there's so many things of social justice that is broken.
All right. Well, let's bring Elder Manning in to give his thoughts of how does social justice and spiritual justice, is there really a relationship there?
Yes, there is a relationship there. Well, as long as this world stands the way it is, you're going to have good and you're going to have bad. And that's where we are today. It's a choice that we have to make in life. And it's something that it has to be taught. Like Superintendent Gooding said, it's in the home, it's in the school, and it's in the church as well. It all starts from the root is the home. And to where today we see children having children, and now the morals that we've learned from our parents when we were coming up are different from the morals that are being set today, to where fear is gone of God in the house and even in the church and in the school. So as long as God is not in the things that we set out to do, then you're going to have failure. You're going to have troubles and problems. How do we handle them? See, we have to have a plan, and to see now things are separated. The enemy wants it to stay separated, and the system that we live in wants to keep it separated. But we have to come to a full circle, and if it's going to work, we have to work together for the city, the state, and the church as well, and to where we'll come to reason together and to where we can put the right things out for our children today. They don't want to pick up the book. They picking up guns. They want instant gratification. And to where we have to now, as spiritual leaders, because right now we're fighting against one another. But it says don't fight against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers and rulers of the darkness of this world and spiritual wickedness in high places. And this is where the church come in at, but the church is losing its power. So now there has to be an awakening across the board, and we have to come together and let them know if God is not in this, it's not going to work. So there's some work. That's why we come together with the precincts to where we have to, and you have bad in the precinct as well as good, and in the church as well, in the home. But we have to come together as spiritual leaders to open up the eyes and the ears of the people so they'll know the truth. Okay. And so they will be set free and on a right path of holiness and righteousness. So
I'm just going
back into your hands, sir.
I appreciate that. I'm just going to, we're going to come back to it because the question is being asked, but you just threw in there these precincts. So the question that came in, what are these precincts clergy coalitions? What are they? What are their responsibilities? What do they do? Jay Good, you want to start us off with that?
Oh, sure. our clergy council at the 49th precinct, we've been in existence for over 21 years. I've been the coordinator. Now I've been the president for the last 14 years, actually. And we've been 10 years incorporated. That's why we're celebrating our 10th anniversary on Thursday. Plug 6 o'clock maestros. But part of our clergy council is one that we kind of took the idea. I think it was Reverend Sampson had the 4-7 clergy. And I started actually first working back in 99 with the 44th. And our 44th clergy coalition was based off of the 4-7. We went by the 4-7 bylaws, which are now Reverend Granby is the president of. But back in the day at the 4-4 precinct, it was we had a captain. I can't think of his name right now, but actually Commissioner O'Neill came on a couple of years later. And the coalition basically was formed together to come, number one, to pray for our officers, to be a bridge between our community, and to also be there to let the community see the good in the police officer. And I often tell folk that's even on this line tonight, I've shared with them, it's not a greater relationship that we can have than working with our officers at the police departments and our local precincts. I try to encourage every pastor, know who your commanding officer is, know who your community affairs officer is, know who your NCO officers are. And it's very important that we as clergy get involved because we need that bridge. Basically, again, it started 99 after the Diallo incident, where a lot of clergies came together just to try to keep peace in our streets. So what we try to do now is we try to be proactive in the 4-9 clergy and in the 4-4 clergy. We try to be proactive before situations jump off. We try to be there to let our officers know that they do have somebody that cares about them. Because the fact of the matter is now that communities no longer have respect. If the children don't have respect for their parents, they're not going to have respect for the police. And that's why I think we've lost in our country, in our homes, in our cities, we've lost respect for authority. So the clergy plays as that liaisons to try to bridge that gap.
Pastor Granby, thank you for that, Pastor Good. Pastor Granby, the 4-7 precinct, which he alluded to, was kind of a model of how they continue to build the 4-9. Talk a little about how the organizing of clergy under the 4-7 precinct is working and the success you've had over the last couple of years.
Thank you. The model for success is being willing to reach out. We're the mediators on both sides. We're both sides for the community, as well as with the clergy, and also with the officers. But one of the key components right now, people have to understand, the NYPD of today is different. The melanin is different. The ethnic background, the diversity is different right now than ever before. Also, the training is different. The officers now have been trained on how to deal with emotionally disturbed people. They've been trained how to diffuse situations, how to interact better. And also there's a collection of the newer officers. They have a better rapport with each other, where there's a cultural connection. Their language is different. When you come to a roll call, and you see the officers now, they're younger, energetic, and they have an idea of trying to make the streets better. They came onto the police department with a 2-year of college education, and they really have a drive to do things better. Now, as far as for us, being the first clergy coalition, and everyone else has kind of modeled, and I'm glad that the model is working, because it was originally done in regards to making things better for the community and bridging the gaps between the officers, the leaders of the community, as well as the clergy.
Well, I thank you that, because when you're the model and you are the progenitor of something, everyone is looking for that leadership, that wisdom, and praying that the words of interaction will always stabilize for today and tomorrow. So I want to thank the 4-7 precinct for being a catalyst for all of the precincts that have taken the mantle to do the same kind of work, because it's not easy. And I thank you all for recognizing it. But we are right now in the halftime of King Talk. And for those of you who know what we do at halftime, as a former basketball player, I got to get my stretch on. I want to make sure the jumper still flows right, and these words motivate and stimulate our rest of our viewers for the rest of the show. But we're going to take a quick break on King Talk Tuesdays and come back after a couple of words from our friends.
Revolution of hip hop. Bronx Terminal Market. 610 Exterior Street. Bronx, New York. Tuesday through Sunday. Pull up.
The Golden Era, 1986 through 1990.
Hi, Frank Perez here from Eastchester Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram. It's our Durangos Must Go inventory sell-off. Over 145 Dodge Durangos, all trims, all options, all colors, all must go. The all-wheel drive Durango has it all. Style, comfort, cutting-edge technology, and loaded with safety features. Get up to $2,750 bonus cash and even make no payments for 90 days. It's our Durangos Must Go inventory sell-off. Eastchester Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram. Pay the least in the East.
Oh, yeah. If you need a car to get from the west to the east or the north to the south, Eastchester Chrysler Jeep is the answer. Get ready for hip hop. The summer is going to be spectacular. 50 years of hip hop is being celebrated all throughout the Bronx and throughout the states here in the United States. So get ready as the museums are going to be opening up. The Hip Hop Museum coming up the beginning of mid next year. You got Sha Rock Day coming up on June 3rd. There's so many other events, DJ Kaz, birthday parties, Flash. There's so much stuff that's going to be going on. So just be a part and celebrate. And all us, I don't even call us old heads, but all of us, what is to wear Pro Keds and Converse cans and Pumas. You know what we're talking about in those days. So again, to everyone who's tuning in, you're watching King Talk Tuesday, the show with real views, real news, and real talk. I'm your host, Andy King. We air every Tuesday here on Facebook and at YouTube at 8 o'clock live. We also air every Thursday at 10:30 on Optimal Channel 70, as well as Files Channel 2136. We're streaming on a number of services such as Roku TV Prime, as well as Millennial TV 24, Clash TV, and so much more. So please, if you have a thought or a comment, you can drop us something in our chat, but you can also send us an email at kingtalktuesdays@gmail.com. But I do want to just take a pause and break because there's so much that's been happening in the world. And at this moment in time, I just say to each and everyone who's tuning in and beyond, today's conversation is about social justice and social and spiritual justice. But I ask everyone, please define your spirituality, however you can grab on hold to it. Our children are lost. Our adults are finding their way. Some have just totally, escaped reality when it comes to spirituality and working the ways of the world. And as a good man who wrote a good book, said, hey, he is not of this world. So I can't be mad if I'm saying I'm following him and I'm following him because he's not of this world. So that means I truly can't be a part of this world, because trying to be a part of this world is really a death sentence within itself. So I'm just saying to all of us, find prayer in your heart to heal yourselves, to forgive others. And I say pray for everyone, your neighbors, your friends, your community, your friends, your enemies, your frenemies, whoever that is. Just offer a prayer to lift up those burdens that have been on your shoulders. Lift up those burdens to help our children see the light. Lift up those burdens so our communities and our young brothers and our young sisters understood what it was to be a family, to be a neighbor, to be a community, to be better together, as one brother used to always and continues to say. So to all of you, I want to thank you all again for tuning in to King Talk Tuesdays. And with that being said, I just want to give a shout out to a few people who are tuning in right now. And I see my good sister here, Yvette Samuels, who is putting up saying people spend so much time keeping up with the next big thing instead of being a follower, be a leader. Stop trying to be the next Jay-Z and be the best you. Thank you for that. Also want to give a shout out to Max. She's just saying, yes, indeed, Reverend Dr. JJ, Senior Gooden. So obviously you dropped some jewels on it that she really appreciated, and thank you. And my brother Mark Fisher saying, keep building, my brother, because that's what we have to do. We have to keep building. But for everyone who's tuning in, bringing the peace and blessing to all. Sister Linda Kipp, she's in attendance with so many such as manners and etiquette. And I just want to thank everyone who's tuning in. Well, let's get back to the second half of our show. And we have a dynamic guest of pastors who head up clergy precincts around the city in the borough of the Bronx to talk about what that relationship is. So, there's a question that we want to really kick off since we're talking about the biblical piece of this. So I'm going to read something. I need to get your thoughts when we start talking about what is spiritual justice. As simple as that question is, I'm going to ask you, Sister Tate, what is spiritual justice?
That's a good question. When you say spiritual justice, and I'm thinking about justice, I think justice is justice. And when you're talking about spiritual justice, I'm thinking you're talking about God's justice. You know, what kind of justice that God requires. And that's how I look at it. I really don't separate it. I look at it as justice. And as a believer, you know, there's one standard, and that's God's standard. And I think, you know, as I think about that and I look at all the things that are happening around us, is that we think about justice, we think about what we think about each other, we think about people being created in the image of God. And so there's worth, they have value, we should treat them as such. But what we're seeing now, and we've heard others say that this evening, is such a disregard for people. We've lost sight of respecting people and valuing people. And so it's so easy for us to take their lives. But when we think of what God requires of us, He requires of us to treat each person with worth and with fairness. And I think when we talk about spiritual justice, that's pretty much what it is.
I'm going to read something for all of you. And I want to thank you for those words, because you kind of broke it down, because we're talking about a higher power here versus man's own stuff. So I want to read something to you. While biblical justice unites and uplifts people, social justice tears down certain groups and creates division. The second problem with social justice is that it surrenders more power to the government, since it appears to be the only one powerful enough to correct these systematic inequalities. I want to ask you, Pastor Granby, do you find any truth in that statement?
What I find in that statement, when you say about the government or the how would you say, the community of government, maybe it's a community of government, it's a better way to put it, that is controlling us, that means that the social justice component deals with each person's own values, morals, or ethic code. So it's not necessarily, it could change from season to season. And that's one of the problems we have right now, is that social justice deals with how you feel in that moment, in that time. And something that happened 10 years ago is different from what happens now. Mm-hmm. And that's a dangerous component, because everyone goes by what flavor of the month is it? And each season, someone will say, well, let's do this. And they go along with that as being the social justice. And then another time, someone will say, well, let's do that. It's dangerous. We need to have moral guidelines that all of us can follow and stay with. Because in the idea of social justice, let me put it in the way of the church. When we do something in the church and we change a format, let's say taking communion, somebody will say, we're going to change communion, and this time we're going to all get up and walk around and take part of the Lord's Supper, come to the altar and do it that way. And then if you do that for about 3 or 4 years, and then you change it to, we're going to pass communion out to the pews, somebody will say, oh, we've never done it like that before. Yes, we have. And that's what happens now in the social justice. Every time something happens and a change is made, people forget what happened previously. And right now we have to work on the idea of God's spirit in each of us. Social justice starts from within. When you know right from right and wrong from wrong from within, when God's spirit is within you, then justice will prevail.
I like that. I like that. Thank you. Thank you for tying that all in, because what I'm hearing from you and what I've learned a little bit I know of scripture, and I tell Pastor Goodness all the time, I said, we can stand out here, we can rally, we can yell, we can shout, we can litigate, but until we start walking and actually living in scripture, then you find your answers in life. That spirituality, the directions are there. We don't need a social justice program if we are walking in the truth, because the truth will always have us acting accordingly anyway. Like you said, because we'll be acting accordingly. We don't have to be rallying about why we ain't got fair health care or fair housing or fair jobs or great foods or our economics. Your economics on in Park Slope are greater than those in Eden Ward. No, we all would be, because there will be that type of spirituality justice. There's a question that just came in, and I want to put it up and read it for you, Elder Manning. And it comes from Maria Coolden. She's asking the question. She says, what are we missing with our youth and young adults? And I will ask you to answer that question.
Well, the millennial today, what are we missing because of them? They are our future. And we need them because the way technology is changing today, and they so inclined with the mechanical things that the older generation may not be too familiar with. We need them to bridge the gap between certain things that are going to be needed in life for communication. And that is social justice as well. A lot can't probably get out and about, but yet a youth can show an individual how to use these electronics. And not only that, because they are strong and could be a helping hand for those that might be weak. So we need our youth, and we need them inclined with the right spirit in them, so they can be a help to our world that we're about to embark into for a change. It's going to take the youth to make this change. We're going to have to empower them for that same spirit that within with us to do what's right. And we have to now to get to them and to train them, because it says to train a child in the way they ought to go, and then they won't depart far from it. And that is the Spirit of God. We need our children spiritually inclined first with God. We need them filled, yes, with this word that you said that we will all never be able to understand or even to get through the Bible or whatever means of spiritual awakening that the children, because we're talking about people. I'm not talking about denominations or anything of the such. I'm talking about people as a whole, because this is a God's family, and we have to train up our children in a way that it is right for them to be righteous in the eyes of society, and not the way that things are going now, the way the youth are carrying on. I'm not saying all, but looking through our communities, the way things are going on, so much violence and killing and disobedience. So we need our youth, a transformation of their minds, that they'll be able to grasp on to what the Lord has blessed us with as clergy, as ministers and parents and teachers and government officials, to where we can point them in the right direction so they can live a life, a righteous and a holy life, prosperous life. We need our youth.
I appreciate those words, because we definitely need our children to live a righteous, a spiritual, and a godlike life. And we're counting on them. So with that being said, we're going to take a break and have a word from a youth group that's attempting to do that same thing, to offer spirituality, education, wisdom, guidance, protection, and a love. Word from the Bronx Youth Empowerment Program.
The Bronx Youth Empowerment Program, YEP, is a youth organization that has served the Northeast Bronx for 17 years. During our tenure, we have provided recreational and educational forums that have nurtured the growth of many youth in the community. YEP has also serviced hundreds of youngsters around New York City. YEP's target audience is youth from the age of 11 to 18 with the goal of helping youth become productive adults. YEP provides young people with resources to explore leadership skills, community involvement, and self-development. YEP consists of weekly and bi-weekly informational sessions with guest speakers from professional, political, and entertainment arenas. Also, as a part of community involvement, YEP will host trips to a variety of venues for educational and recreational experiences. As we continue to partner with other local organizations and serve our community, we will strive to unite and develop the youth in our community. The mission of the Bronx Youth Empowerment Program is building mind, body, and community.
Oh yeah, the Bronx Youth Empowerment Program, 18 years of service to the borough of the Bronx. I'm so proud to be the founder along with my loving wife, Neva Shillingford King. We've been doing this work and we've a number of you have been a part. Pastor Gooden, you've been a part, and Lamont Grammy from the early days of UDC. We want to thank you for your support and help. And the Lord has put this on our heart, and we're still standing. So obviously, we have more work to do, and obviously, we're doing something right that the Lord continues to inspire us to do the work. So I want to thank y'all all again for that conversation. We're coming into our last segment of this evening's show, and we just came out of talking about young people, youth. So I have to pose the question to you, and I'm going to start with you, Brother Lamont. And when it comes to our young people, how can we inspire young people and families to join their local faith communities?
We have to be willing to change the message, but change how we present the message. We have to be willing to stop saying that's how we always did it and change. Remember, Jesus said, I will make you fishers of men, fishers of women, fishers of community, however you want to use the politically correct term. And the idea of catching fish, you have to put on the end of the hook what the fish like, not necessarily what you like. And you have to catch them before you can clean them. So we need to be willing to change a little bit of the language of it so that we can draw people in. And make that little adaptation is what we have to be willing to do. Perfect example is we're in the post-resurrection time. Jesus stayed on the shore, yelled out, have you caught any fish? They yelled back to Jesus, no, we haven't caught anything all night long. Jesus said, take your net and cast them to the other side of the boat. Just that little.
And just that little alteration help all of them to grab what they were able to get. And I like what he said, changing the dynamics of the conversation, but still staying true to the word of Christ. Mm-hmm. I heard earlier, we're in perilous times, and that if we want to be able to help a young person, even though we're trying to speak a language, the spirit is the spirit. You know, you meet somebody who's just kind, no matter what you say to them, they're kind, they always warm, they always loving. And you used to meet somebody who just always angry and funky for no reason. You know, it's the same thing with the spirit of our young people who need that guidance, but you still got to share with them the word. Pastor Good, I know you work with Stand Up to Violence, and you have a number of new groups and Guns Down and Lives Up that all of you keep coming together, and there is a youth component that's always wrapped up and tied into. What has been the formula that's worked for you to inspire to bring young people in?
Well, the formula that has worked for Jacoby Stand Up to Violence, and we're in our 9th year, has been credible messengers. Young men being able to give that message. They might not listen to the police department. As I said earlier about the authority, these young no longer have respect for authority. So the fact of the matter is that now when they have one of their own peers, somebody that's been through the turmoils and been through adversity, now is able to share with them and let them know, listen, you don't want to go down this same road. Now some of the young people are able to listen to them. And I often say statistics won't show that. But Andy, if you don't mind, Lamont said something, Dr. Granby said something that is so key. I think we have to recognize that in this time, number one, the Bible is being fulfilled again. So the Bible said in the last days is going to be a great falling away. But yet the message has to remain the same, but our methods change. Again, the methods change, but the message remains the same. So we can't do stuff that we did 40, 50 years ago. Back in the day, you know, our parents, and I shared this with you before, Andy, about how back in the day, our parents made us go to church. Well, my father was a bishop, so I was part of the church. I was the organist. And back then we was in church on Sundays from 9 a.m. to about 11 p.m. on a Sunday, all day long. Revivals went from Monday to Monday. And don't let the evangelists be anointed, because then my father in old school would ask him to come back for another 2 weeks to continue the revival. But we have lost that along the way. And as Pastor Manning said earlier, the church have almost lost the power, but yet we still know that God has all the power. So it's imperative upon us to recognize that the message must remain the same, but yet our methods must change. And we got to get sometimes even the input from our young people. You mentioned before, Andy, and if you don't mind me just going back, because I was just sitting here, and you talk about what's the difference between spiritual change and social change. I believe social change, as Reverend Granby said, it comes with certain circumstances. You know, social changes can come momentarily. For instance, Trayvon Martin can now bring about a social change, but a spiritual change is eternal. A social change could be momentarily, but a spiritual change is a movement. So we got to understand that there is a difference between a spiritual change and a social change. Social changes change from time to time, but yet the fact of the matter is that spiritual change, God is the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. Even though styles change, social changes, but God remains the same. And I got, you know, my last point that I want to make, because I had a brain free, I had that senior moment. Andy, you'll start getting that now since you're 60. I couldn't think of the captain who started us with the 4-4, but that was Captain Kevin Clark. Kevin Clark started us at the 4-4 precinct, and then Commissioner James O'Neill, he became the next commanding officer, and he actually took his clergy out for lunch. So we're grateful for the relationship that they had.
Well, yeah, thank you. Well, we're getting close to winding down, and there's so many comments that are coming in, and I just wanted to give Corey Washington an opportunity, because you were talking about young people, and he says youth groups are so important, which is why they are often fought against or abolished. And I tried to fathom what he was trying to relate as a youth developer myself. And I do understand when you have programs that are really doing something, does the system make it easier to support it, or do they make it more challenging to stick with it? Because there are a lot of people on the ground that are doing real work. And then you have some people who know the system, who just get paid from the system, and there's never any deliverables that ever happen out of the millions of dollars that are happening. But messaging is portrayed on those young people, and when they become 19 and 18, the message that they got with 14 gives them absolutely nothing by the time they're 18. So I like what he said right there. But I want to ask y'all this question before we have to part and give y'all all an opportunity. People of faith also experience discrimination and injustice. How can we work together to unite people of different faiths, as well as educate others on spirituality? Sister Tate, Pastor Tate, would you care to start us off with that?
I think that I think I said this earlier, that we need to work together in order to build a beloved community, but we have to do so without losing sight of who we are. We must stand true to who we are and what we believe and walk in that. And so I think as we do that, and we as we come among people, we do that in our community. We work with all the people in the community, but they know who we are, and we don't lose sight of who we are. God has called us to be living epistles, and we try and do that. You know, as we walk, God has called us to be people of the light, and we try and do that. And I think, you know, when we follow the ways of the Lord, when we walk in the Spirit and we do that, I think that it positions us in such a way that we are able to work with people within the community, because we respect them and we respect who they are, even as we witness to what we believe.
Elder Manning, you want to take that same question and share your thoughts?
Well, I'm looking at a God, he's a God of every nation. Yes, and he says, every knee shall bow and every tongue shall confess. Now, I love my Muslim brothers. I love my Catholic family. I love the Baptists, Episcopals. So there is no denomination because it is all God's people. And my job is to make them aware of the spirituality and that the God that we serve, that we all are going to have to give an account one day too, and to where as a community, and we all going to have to work together because it's not me that is right and doing everything that what I do, even with the youth. We have to give them room to grow and to spread and to what we have to do is we can't look at denomination, everybody as a people, and we come together and to work things out for the well-being and the welfare of our communities in this nation. And it takes God, and man's rules is out the door when it comes to God, because it is God's way of knowing. So we have to come together as a people and not as just individuals and denominations. So we all got to come under one umbrella.
I appreciate that.
Work.
And as we get closer to about to wrap up, I got to bring in this comment because one of you said, and I think it was you, Elderman, and I know the scripture, train up the child the way he will not go. Train up the child he should go, and he will not depart from it. So as Sister Yvette Samuel wants to share, our youth, but our adults as well must be trained to believe that their parents are teaching them and letting them know, no matter what the world is teaching them, God is always the correct path to take. No matter how hard you train your children, evil is always there to entice their minds of our young and try to guide them to do wrong. Teach your children to be spiritually strong. I like that. Teach your children to be spiritually strong. I think that's the number one thing that is causing our world to fall, is that we are not spiritually strong. So anything that gets thrown at us, we take it, we eat it, we grab it, and we regurgitate it. With that being said, we roughly have about 2 minutes. Pastor Gooden, I want to give you the last word. You know, you got 30 seconds before we have to disconnect and bring us back together again.
All right. Well, listen, you know my motto, we're better together. We're better together. That question and that comment that Sister Samuels just made is so apropos and so significant, because the fact of the matter is we must at least put the word of God into our young people. And that's what's missing for today, because even when we was growing up, Reverend Granby and myself and you, Andy King and Pastor Manning and Pastor Tate, we had our parents taught us the word. We went to Sunday school, so we knew about choices. We knew about choices made consequences. Good choices made good consequences. Bad choices made bad consequences. But today our youth is only seeing one way because they're not getting that word into them. So it's imperative upon that we teach them. And even if it's not our own biological children, we must still spread the word. That's why I enjoy doing what I do for Jacoby Hospital, Stand Up to Violence, besides pastor in 2 churches. So I won't have to come to Pastor Granby's church like I did this morning and eulogize a 21-year-old that's getting shot in the streets. Elder Manning said something most apropos that I just want to close out on, is that we understand, we respect each other's religions. We respect each other's faith. Our 49th Clergy Council, the Clergy Council of the 49th Precinct, have over 83 members now of ecumenical faiths. We have Muslims, we have Jews, we have Protestants, we have Christians as part of our group. We must learn to respect in this season of Ramadan, Passover in Christianity, Easter, resurrection. I like to call it resurrection more than Easter. We all celebrate it at the same time, recognizing that, yes, there is one God, one faith, one baptism. So we got to understand that even though we have many faiths, it's still one God. And we are better together. And when we learn how to respect and learn about, it's important that even in our clergy council, I try to have our Sheikh Ahmud teach our Christians about what the meaning of and the significance of Ramadan. Right. We try to learn what the significance of Passover is all about so that we can respect each other. But like Pastor Tate said, I know in whom I believe. So my faith cannot be withered.
Well, I thank you for that, and I appreciate all of you for joining us this evening on King Talk Tuesdays. I thought we had a dynamic spiritual conversation. I look forward, you all have an open invitation to come back on, but we got to wrap up right now. And what we do on King Talk, we close every show out with a scripture. And tonight's scripture reads from Proverbs chapter 24, verses 24 and 25. He that saith unto the wicked, thou art righteous, him shall the people curse, nation shall abhor him. But to them that rebuke him shall be delighted, and a good blessing shall come upon them. If no one told you today, God loves you, and so do I. Your friend, your brother, and your neighbor, Andy King. Peace.